Welcome to Distribution Talk with Jason Bader, the show where we dive into the stories, struggles, and solutions from business owners and thought leaders in the wholesale distribution market. Hi friends, Jason here. In this episode, I had the pleasure of reconnecting with AJ Maloney, former vice president of Coburn Supply based out of Beaumont, Texas. I hesitate to mention that because, as you will hear, AJ is a Louisiana boy through and through. I've had the pleasure of working with this company over the years, and I've always loved the way that they have not limited themselves to one contractor market or geographic area. It reminds me of the old Wayne Gretzky quote, "I skate to where the puck is going, not where it has been." Although AJ is doing his very best to hang up the skates, this fourth-generation family business will continue to look for the next place the puck will be. I hope you enjoy the episode. All right, AJ. Hey, welcome to Distribution Talk. So good to see you, sir.
Well, good to see you.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Last time I saw you was down in Houston, but I've had a long history working with your company, and always enjoyed my interactions with you all.
Well, good.
So, my friend, would you mind telling us a little bit about how you got involved with distribution? I mean, you've been around it a long time. So, what got you in it?
Well, Coburn Supply Company is a family company. It was started by my father's uncle, Albert Coburn. So consequently, through junior high and high school, I worked in the warehouse, loaded the shelves, and did all of those things that come with it. I went to the university here in Lafayette, Louisiana, and on weekdays, whenever, I would work part-time. And after graduating, I went into education. I was a math teacher and a coach for 7 years, but even then, during the summers, I would work to supplement that poor teacher pay during the summer and so forth. And when I decided that I wanted to get out of education, the first place I looked was at Coburn Supply Company. And at that point, thought, well, let me do this a couple of years and I'll see what's happening. And 40-something years later, here I am.
Here you are. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to take it then you're the third generation. And so the fourth generation is also involved with the company at this point. Yeah, interesting. How fascinating. Look, making it to second generation is tough, but making it to fourth, I mean, that's a pretty rare,
that's true.
A rare feat there.
It's difficult. It's not something that happens automatically, that you have to make it happen.
Absolutely. And it's interesting. I remember years ago, I went to a family business seminar actually put on by the old Arthur Anderson, that is no longer anymore. But they talked about how to sustain these generational companies. And they talked about actually the Beretta handgun company, which is one of the oldest family businesses. I want to say it's probably in the 9th generation, or maybe 10th by now. But they had certain rules that sustained that. And I was just curious, is there anything that, your company put in place to kind of keep that family momentum going?
It's not formalized rules, but everybody from the third generation on worked elsewhere before coming to Coburn Supply Company. So consequently, have both myself, my brother Don, who's president of the company, has worked outside. As I said, I was in education, and the others have too. And consequently, you bring skill sets from other industries and other aspects to it. I guess the first rule that we've had when we hire on a family member is that anybody we hire, we can fire. So
okay, that's good.
Everybody knows that we're looking to give them an opportunity and not a position.
No, I think it's a great way to look at it, and I've spoken to several multiple generation companies, and yeah, I mean, you really have to earn your place. But I also agree that, spending time away from the company before maybe you're coming out of school and, you spent your time teaching, but I'm an absolute believer in that. I think that is because you bring skill sets and really from your side, thinking about the teaching and coaching side, I'm certain that, a lot of those skills really, came into play with your organization.
Yeah, well, that's part of it as you go along, because you're always trying to develop new talent and move towards your objectives. And sometimes the path is not a straight line, so you need to figure out how to make it keep moving.
Yeah, well, I think again, with your educational background, you at least have a leg up on some people, that maybe have been, struggling with this, because this is something that all businesses and distributors as well, struggle with, is developing talent. Hard enough to find them, now you got to
Right.
keep them, and you
Yeah,
got to develop them, and so.
that's true. That's true.
One of the things that you and I had talked a little bit about, was some of the transformations you've seen. As you said, you've been there 40 years now. You've seen
Mhm.
all kinds of transformations in that organization, and particularly in that warehouse and material handling and that world as well. We talked a little bit about the move to barcode scanning and that kind of an environment.
Right.
Can you tell me a little bit about that transformation for you all?
Well, I mean, when I started in the business, it was a paper and pencil business. And,
Sure.
and that we did have a computer at our main office in Beaumont, Texas, but we'd have to fill out sales orders and purchase orders and et cetera at the branch and mail them to the office in Beaumont. And then that's where it was key punched. So that was the transition. I guess at some point after our father, Don and I's father, passed away, and our uncle James Maloney was leading the company, that we convinced him that for us to move forward and to compete in the world that we were, because at that point in time, most of our competition was already larger than we were. And so that we convinced him, all right, we needed to automate and computerize our order entry process and purchase orders and
Mhm.
whatever. And so in 1992, we went to a point of sale, point of purchase system online and live, and moved the company forward from there. Actually, we're still on the same system we were originally, but of course we've modified it so much. We still use some. I actually use some of the programmers that originally worked on it to
Yeah.
help us to modify systems and whatever. But it was broad enough. It was a mark information system,
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah.
and it
Yeah,
was
I'm familiar.
it was scalable. So we were able to work with it to make it adapt to what was happening in our world
Yeah.
and so forth. And it's worked for us and continues to work for us. Now we do have a lot of bolt-on programs that we've added, from purchasing to business information, and various other things that have bolted onto it, but it's been amenable to that task. So,
That's interesting. So when you came into the business, not exactly when you started, but when you kind of came into more of a leadership side of the business, how many locations did you have at that time, AJ?
I think it was 15,
About 15 at that time?
right?
How many do you have now?
53.
53. That's what I thought. Okay, all right.
Mhm.
So you've seen, a pretty good stretching of the arms there and the
Yeah.
tentacles out
Mhm.
there. And so Mark has really been able to, the smart systems that you've been able to modify been able to handle that scale.
That's correct.
That's
Mhm.
great, and that's, a testament to that, but you definitely have to, keep it coming along with your programmers and whatnot.
Oh,
So,
yeah. Seems like we always got a project underway, and one major one now is to move the operating system to a different system, which would allow us to, I guess, modernize our screens and so forth on there.
so maybe, more of a maybe a Windows backend, more of a Windows
Right.
look and feel or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you
Because the new generation that's coming in, that's what they know. So
That's right.
you've got to recognize it and make it, and it's a big task, but we're working at it and persistently.
Well, yeah, when you have, the old green screens, although,
Mhm.
green screens and character based, I mean, it's efficient, it's fast, and it works
Mhm.
pretty well, but you
Right.
have to know what you're doing,
Right.
and where the more attractive interfaces, it just, they're more user friendly,
Right.
and especially with this, as you are recruiting and trying to bring people in,
Mhm.
sometimes if a younger person comes in, takes a look at that, and they're like, wow, I don't know what to do with that
Yeah.
antiquated
Right.
thing. And so,
Right. What we're fortunate is that the system is pretty much intuitive. So once you get the basics under belt, we've had a good record of being able to transition people to the system and so forth. So
So part of that, those bolt-on processes, you said, business information systems, and frankly, I'm a huge fan of business BI packages. Which ones did you?
focus.
Oh, Focus. Yep. I am a fan of Focus. It's interesting, AJ. Many people in the plumbing HVAC world. I mean, this is Focus tends to really have done well in that world. And
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think they marketed their system very smartly in that they spent a lot of time at buying groups and national conventions and regional conventions. And yeah, it's been excellent for us. And in fact, we're transitioning some of our legacy things to use the focus information on there. It's just you can slice it and dice it and analyze it and look at it from different ways. And in the end result, I guess that we've had that discussion recently that I guess I am a nerd. I like all the figures in different ways and so forth. So,
Well, you can wear that badge with honor, my friend. Yeah.
mhm,
No, I think I'm right there with you. I love data. I mean, I'm a self-professed
mhm,
data junkie. I love it, and I think it's because you get a chance to really to see things from different perspectives. Previously, we would have a very linear path. We would look
right,
at customer says X, and our salespeople say X, so we're going to do X.
right.
Whereas, those of us who like to challenge perhaps those
Mhm,
notions, now we have different ways to slice and dice, as you said,
mhm,
and look at different ideas and not always take the word of those sales individuals,
right,
with playing a lot on gut feel. So no, I'm a huge fan, as I said, and I think it's fantastic that you all are really diving deeper and deeper into
right.
that into the functionality of that focus software. Now,
Mhm,
have you all gone into dashboards and
yeah,
built that type of neat stuff?
yes, right. Yeah, and we're going to be studying their financial package and whatever to move it to where we can, again, slice and dice it and analyze it in different ways on there. So,
That's great. Yeah, my younger brother's company is a contractor supply company based on the West Coast,
mhm,
and they have Focus as well.
mhm,
And they took on the finance package,
mhm,
portion of that a year or so ago, and they've really been pleased with that going
mhm,
forward. So I think you all are going to be really pleased as well. One of the other areas, though, that again you and I have spoken about before is the warehouse management software.
right,
The barcodes, the lasers and phasers, as I like to
right,
call them out there. So
right.
how was that transformation for you all?
Yeah, well, what we did, I guess, probably, well, time moves quickly, but I guess 8 to 10 years ago, we had three distribution centers and three regional pipe yards that we deliver pretty much every day to all of our locations. So we decided to integrate with Latitude, the WMS program, and it's worked well. It was difficult, the transition into it. For a while, the wheels came off the bus. Okay. Some things we had not planned adequately for on there, but it's operating well now. It's a standalone package, but integrates well with our legacy system. And it's transformed that end of our business. And we continue to develop it in terms of paperless operation on there. At the present time, we're implementing the WMS system at our locations. I guess right now we probably have 15 that are on some sort of way, and we're working with our regional ops people to implement it, and eventually all locations.
So AJ, that's that Path Guide Technologies. Is that the parent company of that Latitude? Is
Yeah,
that up in
Latitude is Path Guide, but we're using something different that was
okay.
developed by somebody on the branch side. Okay,
Okay. Okay.
that was directly it was somebody that was familiar with the mark system that directly connects into our legacy system, and we thought that was the best way to do, because the world is different in a sales branch rather
Mhm.
than a distribution center. Okay, and so we
Absolutely.
felt like this was the best way to go. So
AJ, I hate to date myself, but I have been around that company probably since the late 90s. I got up in because they're up in the Pacific Northwest, and that's why I
right.
got involved with them early on, and familiar with the original ownership of that company and whatnot. So
Oh yeah.
I'm glad that you all really, embraced that and took that on. And you're absolutely right that the functionality inside a distribution center is very different than that sales location. I like distribution centers, frankly, because they're pure. They don't have customers. They don't have
Right.
anything else to mess up. They're just a
Yeah.
pure
Yeah.
system right there.
It's stuff in and stuff out. That's all.
And I love that. Just the more you add to it, it complicates it and makes
Right.
your life difficult. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it'd be a great business, without that inventory and customers, but that's what we do. So,
Yeah, that's what we always say, that if it wouldn't be for customers and vendors and employees, this would be an easy business to do.
isn't that the truth? Thinking back, 8 to 10 years ago, as you said, when you all kind of moved over from that paper, the paper ticket system, and you had some folks that, really had to look at those documents to pull things the right way. And then there was that digital transformation to, barcode scanning. And tell me a little bit, how did that transition go for you all? I mean, what's the good, bad, and the ugly?
Well, I mean, it's a learning process. There's no question about it. And you have to get to the point where your employees trust the system.
Yeah.
That if they put it in the right location, then when you go to find it, it should be in the right location. And it's a transition and it's a teaching process, but it is easier to get new employees up to speed with that system, because they don't don't necessarily have to know what they're picking. Just it's in the right spot and it matches the barcode and the model number and et cetera, and they okay. There you go. There's pros and cons to that, but
Yeah.
the end result, to get them up to speed, that's the fastest way to do it.
I would agree with that as from on the plus side is getting them up to speed, and I found that when I went through that process, there was a lot of fear of that new technology, the fear of the gun, that you're going to press some button and magically erase the company, and so there was a lot of fear around using those scanners. Looking back on it, what did you all do right? If you were really kind of to give somebody advice on if they're going to make this big transformation, they're going to make the investment, what do you think you all did really right and you would tell people to do?
Well, first, pick the right system for yourself. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big step along the way. At some point, you have to trust your judgment and whoever you're working with, that, okay, this is going to work. And you've got to be focused and you've got to be steadfast in purpose to make it work. That whatever obstacles that you come across, you just need to figure out how to resolve them and move forward. So
yeah, I think that's one of the things that you really have to have, that intestinal fortitude, that you're going to have people that are going to fight you on this one. They're really going to tell you to turn off the system, this is killing us. And I found that you just have to fight through that. You just got to push through.
We've been fortunate in that, and the way we've organized as we got bigger, we realized that as you add locations and you have new people come on at new locations, but also the old locations, that all of the operational steps that are necessary to make business run in a day don't quite exactly transfer from one to the other. Osmosis doesn't work in our business. Huh?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
On there. So what we did to approach that was that, number one, we first appointed 2 branch operations specialists, that their job was to communicate with each of the branches and make sure that they're working the systems, help them through issues in terms of operations and so forth, and do the correct things. And now it's blossomed into where each of our sales regions, okay, and we have 8 sales regions that each of them, well, actually probably 10 sales regions. But each of them, we have a regional operational and inventory specialist that works with those locations, generally with a general manager, but certainly with the individual branches, to implement different procedural changes, but also to help them through their issues and identify problem inventory and so forth. So with those regional specialists in place, it makes it easier to make the transition. It's not just forced down, top down on it. They're integrated within the system and helping to resolve any of the issues. With all of them come from branch operations, so they understand our branch personnel are going through. So
And I think AJ, that's really interesting that by having it kind of decentralized, and that's really, with those 10 specialists, they can be a little closer to the individuals that are working a specific, application problem or whatnot. Because, as you know, and those of us, we've been around the block a little bit, we know that, one location isn't always necessarily going to operate the same way another location is going to,
yeah. Well, I mean, the products they handle could be different. Each marketplace is different in one way the other, and employees come from different backgrounds. So, be able to accommodate all of that to make it happen. And this has worked well for us, I think, to have it as close to the point of activity as we can, that assistance. So
yeah, you're right. Personalities and backgrounds and culture, different, a little bit different culture in each one of these locations. That was something I had to learn the hard way, going to different regions, trying to open up a location in a different region. Not only the contractor behavior was different, but, as you said, the employee behavior was different and the employee motivations might be slightly different. And yeah, I think you're right. Regional specialists can help smooth that over a little bit. They know what the overarching goal is,
right,
but then they're going to tailor it for
right.
The culture that is developed in that area. So that's a great way to look at it. So I guess again, having specialists, that's a great piece of advice. Was there anything that you wish you would have done differently?
Well, I mean, you can always prepare more.
Yeah.
That can always be done. And other than that, it's just more preparation, I think,
Yeah.
I can say on that.
Were a large percentage of your items already barcoded going into this thing?
Yes, it varies.
Okay.
I mean, we're in plumbing, we're in HVAC, we're in waterworks, electrical, and so forth. Waterworks was probably the least barcodable or products that were already barcoded.
Yeah.
But that's improvement. I think that's changed. Okay, that they're realizing, manufacturers are realizing that they have to do that. It helped on the plumbing and electrical sides that the big retailers pushed that issue. Okay,
They sure did. Yeah, they really did.
And so a lot of them, whether we like that they sell in the big boxes or not, but that was part that they did. So that helped with it. But we continue to have to push our manufacturers when we get into the the barcoding, but then beyond the barcode, it's all the other data maintenance things that are in there, weights and sizes and lengths and prices and so forth. And some manufacturers are I don't know, reluctant to share their electronics with us sometimes, where we don't have to load every item by hand, that we can do it electronically. And we're getting there. They're starting to understand, and we're starting to be a little more insistent that, okay, this is the way we're going to do business. If you want to do business with us, this is the way we have to do it. Now, there's always a point where you have to say, okay, well, let's work with it for a little while longer, but we're continuing to work with it.
Well, it becomes so labor intensive to
Right.
load that stuff manually. And I think, that's one of the things I've pushed on this for years and I've run into this challenge or this situation over the years. And, there's a certain point, and I don't like to get into this more confrontational side with with the supplier side, but occasionally you have to say, hey, look, if you enjoy cashing these checks we write you, then, maybe we need to find a better way to do this.
And most are very cooperative, okay,
Yeah.
or trying, part of the secret is getting to the person that knows how to do it within a company.
Right.
Getting the right person to do it. So,
AJ, what I think is kind of shocking sometimes. I remember, seeing these beautiful pricing books created and then them saying, well, we can't get you that electronically. I'm like, well, how did you get it onto the pricing book, man?
Right.
It's like, come on.
Well, that's it. There's somebody there that knows how to do it. Okay. Just the person you're talking to doesn't. Okay.
Right.
So recognizing that and working with that is part of it.
No, yeah, I would agree. I think, finding that right person is absolutely key. If I could for a minute, I want to change gears here. And I appreciate, you telling me a little bit about, some of that digital transformation. I think that's a great thing, especially as you scale up. You're going to need to do that type of thing
Right.
going forward. But if I could change gears here a little bit, you've been very involved over the years with the ASA, the American, the plumbing side for you, the American Supply Association. How did you get involved on that committee side or the association side?
Since I became active in the company, ASA and the regional organizations have always been part of what we associated with. That was always the place to see other members, but also to meet with vendors and so forth and industry knowledge. In fact, we thought so much about the regional associations that for many years we would send all our branch managers, okay, because they don't always have the opportunity to see the bigger world out there, okay, and to give them a broader concept of it. So as a company, we've always been involved in the associations and not only ASA, but in Hardy, WASDA, okay, which is the
Right.
Water
Water.
Distributive
Yeah.
Association, NAED. So it's important to be part of it, not only for your own benefit, but the associations, I think, have transformed themselves to recognize a lot of what their value really is and changing. They're not the same as they used to be 15 years ago.
Sure. No, I think you're absolutely correct. I'm glad you brought up value proposition because I think that's something that a lot of these folks struggle with. The
Mhm.
associations struggle with quite a bit. And if they're going to retain you, they're going to have to continually bring programming and
Right.
things to make your life easier. That's really, I mean, let's face it, that's really what it is. It's to make that membership's life easier, to help them enhance their business
Right.
and whatnot. And I've seen that. I've actually seen some transitions in leadership that have driven that in other associations. But you spent, again, majority of your, time like service side really with ASA.
That's correct.
Why did you raise your hand? Why did you say, I want to be a part of that leadership side, that advisory side?
I think the truth is they pointed their finger and said, "Hey, we want you to do this." So, so,
So
so
you said, all
get
right.
into it. Yeah, right. Being a nice guy, I couldn't say no.
Right, and maybe you've raised your hand multiple times or been pointed to multiple times. I'll put it that way.
Mhm.
So, what do you gain from that? I always like to ask. I mean, what do you feel like your gain was from your involvement?
Yeah, well, you're obviously being associated with the leaders in the industry, and which is always a beneficial thing. And then you come to appreciate the importance of the associations are in the industry and how much they do help to develop what's happening from the political side to the service side and the services side. So
Yeah. It's interesting, AJ. My journey was, gosh, 18 years ago now that, and I served on the board of my trade association as well. And what I think was fascinating is really, again, that relationship development. Even to this day, I can reach out to people, and I have this last month, reached out to people that I served on that board with, and I can ask them anything and they could, and they're always going to take that phone call. And I think that's so critically important.
it is.
That's really, I think, that helps. And then having that opportunity also to help shape the direction of that organization and kind of share some ideas. I think all of us who have been through that experience find that, we want that association to succeed and to thrive and to continue. How would you recommend, that a young person get involved with that? I mean, how do we energize, that next generation to say, hey, I want to be part of,
Right.
in this case, ASA, but
I think they're in ASA in particular, the Emerging Leaders group has been very active and a great way to get started in the association, and it benefits a lot. I mean, we've had some of our people in the women in industry.
yes, absolutely.
And a good thing. In fact, my daughter was
Yeah.
president one year of the association. So different aspects of it is certainly helpful and broadens the experience of all of us, and that helps.
When I was involved in my association, we didn't have emerging leaders programs, or we didn't have anything like that. Now, most of the associations I work with, that's become a very big part of what they do. And again, the women in industry programs as well. That's probably, what do you think, maybe a 10-year ago phenomena, like in the last decade that's really come on strong.
When I was just starting in the business, it was the young executives, is what they called it. Was active in that and met a lot of people, did a lot of things, and it was great. So some of that has been there. Okay. I think they've done a great job of developing it and continuing to emphasize it.
Gotcha. Okay. Maybe, my association just didn't have anything like that. And maybe ASA was a little further ahead. And which regional were you all involved with? I know that that's kind of been kind of a funny thing that's been working around ASA for a while.
Right. Well, I mean, for many, many years, it was the WDA, Wholesale Distributors Association, Texas,
Gotcha.
Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma. I guess New Mexico was in there. I'm not sure. And that was quite active. And I guess probably 20 years ago, Texas was the main member driver. Okay.
Yeah.
What was happening at that point was in Texas, but particularly like in Louisiana. Louisiana, we had a lot of participation in it, but they were no longer as many independents, and it was the majors
Gotcha.
that were coming in, and they tended not to support the regional organizations. That they were sending people to the national association, but not to the
Right.
regional. And WDA in particular was just the participation just fell off dramatically, and
Yeah.
finally it was disbanded. We made an attempt to resurrect it with using Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas up to Colorado, and with limited success, but there still might be something that's happening. Now, in the meantime, we've become active members in SWA. When we moved into Mississippi and in Memphis and Mobile, Alabama, that we began participating in SWA, and that's a great organization. They do a great job there.
Good. Good. Well, it sounds like you all, I mean, there's no shortage of associations or organizations that you all support,
Mhm.
So, I'm a firm believer that that's really where that relationship development comes in. And that's a
Sure.
big part. And I really do hope that, again, younger generations will continue that process
Right.
for you all. Well, AJ, hey, I really appreciate your time today. It's been a pleasure catching up. I've really enjoyed it. Didn't know that you were a teacher. So,
Yeah, yeah. I guess I have to say that we kind of got in touch after you had Gordon Graham on, and Gordon was one of those that I followed early in my career. That he kind of led the way, and how can you use math to improve the way you do your business? And he was, I think, some excellent concepts that we continue to use, and they continue to be successful today.
I'm telling you, AJ, I still teach that, and because I believe in the fundamentals,
Right.
It was such a pleasure to get to speak to him. That was just such a fortunate find, that I was able to reach out to him. But I'm glad you like that, and I was
Mhm.
really hoping that people that have been around the distribution industry a long time would recognize and hear that and say,
Mhm.
I remember, when I was exposed to the Graham methodologies at the beginning. I know we were trying to wrap up, but I wanted to say, some of the things that frustrated me about modern software is it gets to be too complicated. And I think someone's trying to make a name for themselves by complicating things too much.
He always had a clarity of thought and opinion, and a great way of communicating those ideas. So,
I couldn't agree with you more. So, AJ, as I said, it's been such a pleasure, catching up with you. And I certainly look forward to the next time our paths cross.
okay. All right, Jason. Thank you very much.
Take care. Thank you for listening. If you liked what you heard, consider hitting that subscribe button. Links to sponsors, products, and services mentioned during this episode can be found in the show description area on your podcast application or at www.distributiontalk.com. Distribution Talk is edited and mixed by Andrea Klunder and Edwin Ruiz at the Creative Imposter Studios. This episode was brought to you by my company, The Distribution Team. We are a consulting services firm dedicated to helping wholesale distribution clients remove barriers to profitability, generate wealth, and achieve personal goals. To learn more about how we can help your company succeed, check us out at www.thedistributionteam.com.